Great. Well, welcome once again. I am Michael Chuck, and I am a coach and consultant and a friend of CBF Virginia. And I have the privilege of presenting this seminar on the anatomy of conflict. And want to thank Terry Maples and also Mark Snipes. Mark is the CBF Virginia office. Just got back from sabbatical, and thank you for allowing me to do this. Also, I'd like for us to just briefly have a chance to introduce one another and so that we have a chance to say, who we are. So in our welcome and introductions, I've done so. And maybe Terry, would you mind just everybody knows Terry, but.
Yeah. Terry Maples. I am currently the coordinator for CBF Virginia for another 30 days or so. And I am very pleased that we can offer this session today and the next couple of weeks, and I look forward to what we can learn together.
Thanks, Terry. Tom.
My name is Tom Wee, and I've been living in Asia many years, Singapore, China, and then Germany. So I just moved back to US, North Carolina. So I'm a volunteer helping the Indonesian Baptist Seminary in Semarang, Indonesia. And I came here to accompany my son so he could attend the 11th grade in the United States. That's why I'm in the United States again. And we were in Germany. He was studying at a German high school, and it was too difficult. The German was too difficult for him. So that's why we moved back to the U.S.
Well, welcome.
So, and I'm staying at the as a guest at the Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm glad to be with you. I visited many churches in Virginia in 2007, 2008, and I assisted at that time the Baptist Seminary Richmond. They had a visit to China in January 2009. So I helped to facilitate that visit.
Great.
And I was doing a lot of work, cultural exchanges. So I visited many churches in Richmond area, including Baptist, different denominations, Methodist, Presbyterian, Episcopalian. And I'm an independent scholar who likes to research missions history.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks, Tom. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next person now. I'm going to move on to the next person now. Thank you. Yeah. Eli.
Hello, I'm Eli Withers. I'm the associate pastor here at Harrisonburg Baptist Church in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And I wasn't sure I was even going to be able to make this, but as you all know, it's very appropriate and needed for lots of us, if not all of us. So I'm really excited just to hear what you have to say, Michael, as well as what other folks have to say.
Thanks. So good to see you, Eli. It's been a little while. Yeah. Laura.
Hey, my name's Laura Davis. I work with Women's Missionary Union of Virginia with missions engagement and friend of CBF Virginia as well. And it's just good to be with you all. It's been a while.
That's right. Thanks, Laura. Good to see you too. Kristen.
My name is Kristen Koger, and I currently serve as the associate pastor at First Baptist Waynesboro. My 1-year anniversary is about a month from now. And so it's good to be back in Virginia. I graduated from BTSR in 2015 and then was in Atlanta for a few years, and am glad to be back with my good friends at CBF Virginia. So thanks, Michael, for leading us today.
Oh, absolutely. Good to see you, Kristen. Wow. And Dan.
I'm Dan Koger. I pastor Churchland Baptist Church in Chesapeake, Virginia. We are an aging congregation, and our middle name is Conflict.
All right.
Changing the light bulbs and making it brighter creates ripples in the pew.
Yes.
They don't even talk about Jesus. Glad to be here, Michael. Thank you for your expertise.
Oh, absolutely. And
since
I want to
Kristen's
say
here,
that,
since Kristen's here, she'll take all the notes and she'll give them to me.
well, absolutely. But there's also tons of expertise in this space right now too. And I hope I will learn from you all also. Warren, is so good to see you.
Good to see you, Michael.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to say about yourself now that you are retired and enjoying life?
Not retired.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah.
Tired, but not retired.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm now pastoring at Beaver Dam Baptist Church near Franklin, Virginia, which just so happens to be my home church, the one I grew up in. I've come full circle living back in my boyhood home and pastoring my boyhood church. So we've been here about 5 years or so, and just got this email this morning, 20 minutes ago. Thought it was interesting and needed topic, so I jumped right in.
Gosh,
Good,
thank you.
good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you, Warren. Thank you for being here. Kenny Davis, is he available to say hi? Maybe not.
Hey, Mike. Michael.
Hey.
There we go. Sorry, I thought the space bar was going to take care of that. I'm staying off screen. I'm dealing with COVID right now and wasn't sure if I'd be in a chair or in a bed or in one spot between the now and 11:30. So, but I wanted to listen in, and so good to be here.
Wow. Prayers for you, Kenny, and thanks. And at any point if you need to log out, we totally understand. Right.
I'll lean on Laura to fill me in.
Yes, absolutely. And Mark is here too. I wonder if he can say hi.
Good morning. My name is Mark Snipes. I'm the Associate Coordinator for CBF Virginia. Thank you, Michael, for hosting this, and I'm looking forward to the content.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Welcome. Okay, so our next slide, we're going to have time to speak and so forth, but just wanted to have clarity regarding a group agreement in terms of how we interact with one another. All standard things, one person speaking at a time, give the person speaking your full attention, phones off or on mute if possible, listen to understand and learn, suspend judgment, speak your truth, be willing to experience discomfort. And also, I think one more maybe, want to make sure that everybody who would like to participate and to engage, I want to make sure that they have a chance to do so. How do these agreements work with you? If you are in agreement, if you have anything to add, speak now. If not, if you can just raise your hand to say that, we're all in agreement regarding this in terms of how we're going to spend our time together. Perfect. Thank you so very much. All right. What is going on in this picture of Martin Luther King Jr.? I want to open it up. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just like your first impression, right? And don't need a dissertation on it, but just like, what do you think is happening?
Doesn't look like anybody's getting along in the photo.
Yes.
I don't think they're laying on hands.
No.
Given the fact that it's a white person pushing his head down.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Great. So on this series of webinars, in terms of the anatomy of conflict, right? When you hear the word conflict, what is one word or a couple of words that comes to your mind? You can type the answers in the chat box. You can just, say it and share it with people as you unmute yourself. What's a word? Stress. Thank you. Anxiety. Energy. Not seeing eye to eye. Yeah, these are great. Yeah. Anger. See things differently. Yep. Yeah, I think all of these things can, I'm glad they come to your mind, right? And you're just sharing, and I think they are all within the orbit. Bad words, yes. And so today, we're going to explore what I'm going to call intrapersonal conflict. Those are the kinds of tensions that we face within ourselves. And the idea is that next week, we will talk about interpersonal conflict. That is the conflict, the tension, the disagreements, the bad words, the fighting energy between two people. And then we will talk about more kind of a systemic conflict that shows up in groups, organizations, and sometimes even churches. So in terms of conflict, I want to have a kind of a definition. So like when you hear the word conflict, these are some of the words that you said: anger, seeing differently, bad words, energy, and so forth. I want to throw in another idea that is the idea of unmet human needs. And that, so today we're going to talk about intrapersonal conflict, and that the definition I want to propose just for the sake of our conversation together in these next 3 weeks is this: that conflict exists when a person has a need and that need is not being met. And so I'm going to obviously, hopefully, tease out what I mean by all of that, and then we can have conversations about it. Okay. All right. So human needs, what are they? And by the way, I'm going to provide this handout to all of you afterwards. So because we're going to be using it for the next, 3 weeks. Human needs, right? They could involve our literal physical well-being, like clean air and food and nutrition, so forth, right? There are also needs of vitality, which these are some examples of it, like having a choice, learning and laughter and fun and creativity and efficiency and ease and so forth. There are also human needs of interdependence, where we express empathy and trust and have communication and mutual support for one another, love and gratitude. There are human needs of self-awareness, how we accept ourselves, have compassion for ourselves, take responsibility for ourselves, and so forth. Also needs for significance. We would like to matter, to have some sense of wholeness, to be seen and heard. Human need for authenticity, that we don't have to change who we are in order to fit into somebody else's mold. There is honesty, there is integrity, there is wholeness, clarity about who we are. And also needs for community, belonging and inclusion and celebration, even mourning, restorative justice. Those are the kinds of needs that we as human beings universally have. This is based upon Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, a language of life. And I adapted this from my friend, Greg Kendrick, who is a consultant. So our needs is dependent upon our context, our personal history, our family system, our belief systems. All of those things shape how we perceive whether a situation meets or threatens our universal human needs. Let me give you an example. Needs and our biographies. So if you were a person, or you know of a person, maybe grandma or whatever, that lived in the Great Depression. That person's experience, especially when they're young, then have a pretty big impact and impression regarding their attitudes, perhaps toward money. Are they going to have enough food to eat? So forth and so on. In a just as tragic example, right? As a child who has been emotionally abused, right? It drastically and just in a very deep way influences what this person, as he or she grows up, into the needs of safety and trust and so forth. So one's personal biography is so very, very important. So when a human need is not being met, our body tries to communicate that to us. And so what are some ways that our bodies try to communicate to us that a universal human need is or is not being met? I'm going to share my human needs slide again. So a very important but maybe trivial example is like if I am in need of nutrition and food, right? I feel it in my stomach. My body begins to shake because of low blood pressure, right? And so that could be my body trying to tell me that I need nutrition. Any other examples that that you would like to share?
I sometimes find that I go to sleep because I'm exhausted, but my sleep is not restful. And the stress or anxiety or conflict will, show up in my dreams if I have them. And so even in a state of trying to rest, I'm constantly thinking about it.
Yes, I am so with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone else, if you would like to share?
I think that a lot of people were really struggling with their significance and just trying to figure out how to, figure out their identity and their significance in this world in ways that are harmful to their self-health, like mental health and well-being.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really shows up in those ways. One more person? If not, that's okay. So now let's talk about feelings. So we just talked about universal human needs. Now let's talk a little bit about feelings, okay? I've been doing a lot of reading about feelings and emotions, and there's still a lot of things that I don't understand. So I want to be very clear about that. But one of the things that have really stuck with me is that the understanding of that our feelings are intricately related and connected to bodily sensations. It's connected to our bodies. And so if we have some like positive feelings, so this is what you're seeing here is is emotional heat maps, so that when people, these are kind of test subjects and so forth, they have sensors and all of that. So when people say I am angry or whatever, they can actually tell there's a higher level of sensory activity, like in their head, in their heart. You see it like all the way to their arms. Let's see, like depression, right? On the bottom, the third from the left, there is low sensory activity almost throughout the whole body, but especially like in the chest, heart, and stomach area. So my only point is that feelings are connected to bodily sensations. And so now in psychology and so forth, they talk about affect. And here are two kind of axes. The affect of feeling, the affect of unpleasantness and pleasant, right? Pleasure and unpleasant. And then also whether one's body is feeling highly aroused or low arousal. And the arousal really is means like whether one is energized or not. And so in this quadrant, then you can kind of see the feelings of like maybe like disgust, right? On the top left is high arousal. We're very energized, and it is energized. It's a very unpleasant. It's experienced as very unpleasant, and so this disgust. But if it's lower arousal and maybe a little bit less unpleasant, the feeling we may get is we're just kind of feeling a little unsettled, right? And so you can kind of just take a look at this, say, oh yeah, a high, a kind of moderate arousal, but still kind of slightly pleasant is, oh yeah, we're pleased. But if we're ecstatic, right, we are much further down on that pleasant pleasure scale and highly energized and aroused. On the flip side, toward the low arousal, we can be relaxed and pretty kind of neutral, almost like, just chilling, right? But if we continue to move toward the unpleasant and low arousal, we might go from bored to ashamed and total numbness. So this kind of just tells you how our feelings, to the extent that we can identify them, is connected to whether our body is energized or not, aroused or not, and whether our body interprets whatever those sensations are as pleasant or unpleasant. And that has implications. So here are some feelings, right? If we're calm, then we can feel comfortable and content. If we feel glad, there's delighted, we're amused. And then further up the kind of the arousal spectrum, thrilled and ecstatic, engaged, hopeful, refreshed. So you can kind of see, and once again, I will have this PDF for you so that you can kind of take a look at it. I've actually found it very helpful to kind of, when I'm sensing something in my body, right, to kind of look at this and say like, what am I feeling? And just be able to kind of name it helps me many times, just to kind of have a better sense of what may be going on in my body. All right. At this point, any questions or thoughts? If not,
Michael, do you think that the current context, the political climate, coming off of COVID or still being in COVID, and the things that are happening in congregational life have sort of trapped us in that upper left-hand quadrant in terms of our feelings?
Like the upper like
left.
the disgust, distress, unsettled, and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about trapped, but it certainly seemed to be manifesting a whole lot more visibly and consistently these days.
I just see more people parked there than maybe previously.
Yes. And we'll talk about like, what might be some of the kind of even underlying that could let people to do that. Oh, there's Timothy. Oh, he's still connecting. We can say hi. All right. So what I want to say, and this is from a Psychology Today article, is that feelings in response to our bodily sensations are generated by our mental thoughts about whether our needs are being met or will be met or not. So I've said a mouthful at this point. We talked about feelings that's connected to our bodily sensations. We talked about human needs that we all have, right? And the link between the feeling and our needs is our thinking. Thinking whether our needs are going to be met or not. And then we can then kind of express like what feelings we have. So I want to, this is very abstract, so I want to kind of concretize it with an example. All right? Look at this. You are at a party. You notice the emotion and sensation, a little bit of tightness. As your stomach clenches, your heart races, and your breathing gets a little constricted. Like you open the door, and this is what you see. What might you be feeling and why? No wrong answers here. Just kind of lay it out there.
Anxiety, self-consciousness.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oh, why? Why? If you wouldn't mind kind of explaining that.
Anxiety because you're with a bunch of people and for me personally, it would be that you'd want everybody to have a good time, but also not be like a total doofus.
Yeah. Get it.
Yeah, self-consciousness, because I just think that's part of who we are. We're always going to be self-conscious around others. In that we hope that we're not, well, just, I mean, yeah, I don't know how to explain, just being
No, that's
around others.
Yeah, that's all good. Yep. Anybody else with a similar or maybe different kind of feeling? Yeah, Eli?
I agree with Laura. I think if I came and saw this group, of course, it's nobody I know, obviously.
Yeah.
I might be tempted to just turn around, go somewhere else. My introverted self might be a little bit overwhelmed
yeah.
at all these folks who look like they're having a great time, but my anxiety level would definitely rise a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks. Is there another who would like to Kenny says, surprise party. You thought you were in for a low-key evening and then find there's a lot of energy going to be required real quick. Yes, absolutely, Kenny. Yep. Well, that is definitely a reason. So I'm going to give various scenarios, right? So one scenario might be, in one universe, your mind labels that emotional discomfort as feeling anxious because you don't know the people there, or you might have just seen your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, right? You worried that your need for connection and ease might not be met. And that's the kind of maybe feedback that I got maybe from Laura and maybe even from Kenny. And Tom, I'm going to mute you just for a second so that because we're hearing some background noise. Okay, thanks. All right. A second scenario, perhaps in another universe, your mind labels emotional discomfort as feeling embarrassed because you overdressed for the occasion due to a misunderstanding, right? And you're worried that your need for understanding and acceptance may not be met. Like, why? Like, hi, but like, why are you dressed in a ball gown or something? One more. Third scenario, we're into the multiverse stuff here, right? Okay. Another person's mind labels that emotional discomfort as feeling excited because they are eager to meet new people. they perceive that their need for spontaneity and fun might just be met in this room that night. That's probably for the raging extroverts, which I kind of sense that there's probably none of those in our Zoom room right now. But I hope you can see how that could also be a feeling that some people may have when they first see this picture. Same discomfort, stomach clenching, your heart is racing, your breathing gets a little constricted, but there's a difference in feelings because those differences, they are based on the thoughts that different people have or the stories that we tell ourselves about whether our needs may or will be met or not. Does that make sense? And so it could be the very same scenario, right? Right here. But different people will respond and react to it in very different ways. Maybe due to their backstory, maybe due to their personality, whether they're introverted or extroverted. Well, and all of that is also based on how they think whether their need for either ease or understanding or their need for stimulation and excitement might be met or not. So feelings are influenced by our bodily emotions and sensations, but they are generated by our mental thoughts. And I know that in the past, I many times say, well, I feel like so-and-so disrespected me. But that's not really a feeling. That's really a thought. Because anytime you can say, if you can substitute I feel with I think, then you know that that's not like a bodily sensation feeling, is your interpretation that is laid over feelings of dis-ease, unpleasantness, and so forth. Does that make sense? And so I will now say, I feel uncomfortable and uneasy because I think, or I think that person is not meeting my need for understanding and respect. That's just a whole really big mouthful and it's kind of clunky. I'm still kind of struggling to really articulate it in a way that it kind of just flows. But to be able to kind of tell myself in that way, I found to be quite helpful in unhooking myself in my interpretation of how bad that person is to me right now. And that helps to ground me just a little bit. So needs, feelings, and thoughts, the mental thoughts, the story or the stories that we tell about ourselves and about others, they are interpretations of our feelings and observations, our emotions, and then our thoughts then influence how we feel. If we think we're going to be having a great time at a party and that door opens and we see that, we're going to feel really excited and great. If we need rest and quiet and we then open the door and see that party going on, our thinking is, oh my goodness, these people are, somebody said something about these people, right? Like, oh no, this is not gonna go well. Yep. So let's get back to our picture, right? What is going on in this picture of Martin Luther King Jr.? So I know that you all talked about it just a little bit. Any feelings and thoughts and needs might be met or not met as you kind of view this picture now for a second time.
The guy in the plaid shirt, it seems like he's trying to push away things that are making him uncomfortable if we in a violent way.
Yeah.
Michael, I see positive. I don't see him pushing. I see him blessing. I don't see, I see positive.
Yeah, thank you, Warren. Okay, so if I may just kind of follow that train of thought. So as you see this in a more positive light, what are you noticing within your body? Is it like a tensing up? Is it, are you feeling agitated? Are you feeling like, oh, there's a calmness here because I see him as blessing MLK Jr. Yeah, what's going on within you? What are your feelings about that?
Well, that makes me more relaxed to feel like there's no negativity there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no danger there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not as concerned as I might have been if I thought they were trying to do him bodily harm.
Great. Laura, if I may kind of circle back to you, and maybe Terry too. As you look at this, right, and you see like, oh, these are white people pushing MLK down. What do you kind of sense in your body, and what might you be feeling because of that interpretation?
Definitely a tenseness and anxiety. Just looking at the posture of MLK and knowing the discomfort and fear that could be coming, that's what I'm kind of feeling from him.
Yeah.
And just a lot of anger. So I guess it makes me want to not see it.
Yeah. No, right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Michael?
Yes.
Isn't it a lot about what we're bringing to the picture rather than what the picture is saying? I mean, if we're assuming because there's a white guy and pushing down on a black guy or touching a black guy, that there's some racial conflict going on. But if we're not assuming that ahead of time, then we're giving him the benefit of the doubt.
That's
so
exactly
maybe our
right.
thinking is prejudicing our perception.
Yes. So yeah, that is my point. Maybe not prejudicing, but it's just, it does influence, our interpretation does influence how we feel about certain things. That is the point I think I'm trying to make. So here's what's going on. This are two captions from two different publications or websites, okay? So the first caption, Martin Luther King Jr. being attacked as he marched nonviolently for the Chicago Freedom Movement in 1966. I found that on Pinterest, and there's the URL. So, okay. And then the next caption, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. tries to regain his footing after being hit by a stone during an open housing march, August 5th, 1966. But his aides prevent him from rising to protect against further attacks. The Chicago Tribune. That was their caption of this picture. This was in Marquette Park, and King and hundreds of demonstrators had just kind of was starting to march to promote open housing when King was struck by a rock. And that blow knocked King to one knee, and he thrust out an arm to break his fall, the Tribune reporter said. And he remained in this kneeling position, head bent, for a few seconds until his head cleared. His aides and bodyguards closed in around King, holding placards aloft to shield him from the missiles that followed. So that was the Chicago Tribune commentary of what happened. How did the two captions change your feelings and thoughts about the two men holding down MLK?
So I'm trying not to talk that much, but I feel like I need to because I responded to the picture. The Chicago Tribune, it definitely brought, rather than frustration and an anger about what is happening, it brought more of a respect. It brought a sense of being an ally.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, I want to encourage everybody to respond and to engage if you would like. And so if nobody else is doing it, Laura, just jump right in. It's all good. Yeah.
Michael.
Anybody else?
Michael, it's Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny.
So even with the background knowledge or the story, knowing that these are helpful folks, still the photo and even the story, it's still struggle because his attempt was to get back up. And even though it's maybe not beneficial for him to get back up, that's where his energy's at. That back knee is not on the ground resting. And so even sometimes pushing against folks who are trying to be helpful it's still a struggle.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. I hadn't thought about that, but yes. And so my point is this a conflict? It depends maybe on how you define it. What's the scope, right? And all of those things come into play. It is, but it's also the influence of provocative pictures, headlines, captions, so forth, that influence our thoughts, feelings, and needs. Think about this. This was in 1966. We have thousands of this just by looking at our Facebook feed.
For me, there's still some anxiety because you know what's going on around him.
Yeah.
And whoever threw the rock is not finished. So
Yes.
there's still the anxiety of even what you can't see in that picture, I think, also.
Yes.
And you have to wonder about the
It's the bigger
whitewashing
context, right?
of
And
that.
so this picture is like a and just zooming in. So even the framing of the picture influences our feelings and thinking about this. And so yeah. So the power of images is huge. Yep. So at this point, if you'd like to share, what are your takeaways so far between the relationship between our needs, our feelings, and our thoughts, and then around this whole topic of conflict?
I think our initial reaction is like what our gut instinct is. And when there's heightened feelings and emotions and, all of the things we've talked about, stress, energy, all of that, like we tend to just immediately respond to what our first reaction is, which isn't always the best way to respond. Like it's helpful to kind of ask those questions, or what is happening in the picture or the situation. But I just think that's, I tend to be a more of a reactionary person than I think I would like to be. I would not say that I am like, ready to fly off the handle at any second. But I also, usually have to like verbally say things out loud, and then I walk back and be like, all right, hold on, like what's actually happening, So it's just a good reminder of we kind of need to take a breath and, to see the whole picture or try to find out the whole situation or the whole picture before responding, because we don't always have all the details right in front of us.
Yeah. Thanks so much for that. Exactly.
Michael, I think it's really helpful because you're painting a more holistic understanding of conflict. I think we can silo in on one of the words and think that's everything. But the fact that you're pointing out, it's really the interaction among all of these things that causes conflict. That's useful.
Yeah. And so many times how we see, how we interpret, we contribute to whatever tension and disagreement and disconnection among people. And that many times it is also based upon, the unique personal histories that we have. There are certain things that certainly hook me and traumatize me a whole lot more. And I'm much more reactive when it is sometimes with a certain person than with my mom, than with other people, right? And so to kind of own what we bring to situations and circumstances, I think for me has been a helpful and important step. And that's what the intrapersonal part of is all about. Yeah, thank you.
I
Dan?
appreciate the connection with how our body reacts. I've learned when I'm conflicted internally and someone adds to the conflict with what they might say to me or about something going on, I've learned that I need to just say, give me a moment to think about that, or I will get back to you, rather than just responding immediately, because I'm responding out of a place of it. I'm not responding out of focus and balance. Does that make any sense at all?
Absolutely.
I react out of my gut. I need to take a breath to connect my thought process with that. Can I share a personal story? Is that
yeah? Just knowing that this is recorded, but any personal stories,
well, I'll hold on that. I'll hold to that.
Okay. Yeah. We can also pause the recording and we
No,
can.
no. It's not that important.
Okay.
Well, here's the situation.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting with two people in my office last week, and one person shared some information that kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting it. And one person said, you look like you're angry. And I said, no, but I'm unsettled. And looking at the quadrants you had, both those words were on there, but my body to this one person communicated that I was angry. And I really wasn't angry. I was just unsettled. Is that I hope that's not too personal to share.
No, I personally don't think so, but I thank you for sharing that, because what I've been reading is that for so long, psychologists have kind of assumed that people can intuit your feeling based upon your facial expressions, but that's not the case at all, is what people are scientists and researchers are finding out. And so it then further complicates, right, the dynamic when then people are also observing you and then also making assumptions. But thank goodness for this church member that actually articulated what he thinks is going on, and you were able to kind of check in and gently correct the situation. So then there's a better mutual understanding, at least regarding the emotional state that you were in. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It reminds me that tone of voice,
Yes.
body language, facial expression, they all communicate more loudly. Tone of voice always, but body language, facial expression communicate. And my they misread what I was feeling. They saw anger in my face and it wasn't. So that's a good clarifier. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think it is so like if on our end, and as we see perhaps church members or family members and so forth, it probably is also a good reminder that many times when Kristen said, sometimes I'm just more kind of reactive or whatever, my first thinking was that another thing that I'm reading is that our human brain, yes, it's kind of like a computer or a calculating machine or whatever, right? Like that's a metaphor that many scientists in popular thinking, but scientists have also come to a greater conclusion that first and foremost, our brain is a predicting organ. It predicts by looking at past patterns and then predicting. And even sometimes we might be able to even feel things in our body because our brain is telling our heart to pump faster or whatever, right? The prediction is a time and energy saving shortcut that serves us well most of the time, but sometimes it gets it wrong. Because if the brain had to calculate everything from scratch, we would never get anything done. It would take up all of our energy to do that. And so first and foremost, our brain is a predicting machine. And it may look like we are just like acting from our gut and reacting and so forth, but there's a very, very good reason. And it is literally tied to the survival of our species. So here we are. All right. I'm going to continue to share our screen and so forth, because now I'd like to shift. We talked about how we may, in terms of our thinking and feeling and interpretations, I wouldn't even say like contribute to a conflict, but it is part of like the bigger picture, right? And so one of the questions that I've asked myself, and actually maybe Dane, you've mentioned it too, is like, so how can we take a breath? How can we kind of slow down these automatic kind of patterns that our brain uses? Really, it does what it does so that we can survive. But when we enter into situations that we may interpret as conflictual, how might we be able to kind of slow and calm and take a breath so that we may be able to see the bigger picture, and so that we might be able to respond more mindfully, and less just kind of pure reactively. So that's kind of the shift from here on out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Where? Okay. Oh, right here. Sorry. All right. So when we talk about intrapersonal conflict, the things that kind of take place within ourselves, right? I also want to talk about peace, and we're shalom. We've got advanced divinity degrees and so forth. My understanding of peace is that is not necessarily the absence of conflict, but I'd like to suggest that peace, like in that Jewish term of shalom, is also about the presence of wholeness, of integrity, and so forth. And that wholeness, one way to think about wholeness is that we are connected, but we're not identified with one's needs and thoughts and feelings. That we have an awareness of this is what's going on in our bodies. We have a greater mindfulness in terms of, oh, these are the kinds of thoughts that I'm having right now. And that generates a certain kind of feeling. And that could be a path toward a greater wholeness when we are connected more to what's going on within our bodies, our psyche, our emotions. And that's the flip side of that, is that without that wholeness, when we are disconnected with our feelings and our needs, so many times then we are actually then in conflict with ourselves. And when that happens, when we are in conflict with oneself, then one is more likely to be in conflict with another person. So those are like the kind of steps that I'm trying to build here. And I love this quote by Anthony de Mello. He is was a Jesuit priest, and he writes, "If it is peace you want, seek to change yourself and not other people. It is easier to protect your feet with slippers than to carpet the whole earth." I know I've tried to carpet, maybe not the whole earth, but like there are certain people in my life that I would just like to wrap them up with carpet or saran wrap or something, because to kind of lessen their prickliness, if you know what I mean, right? And I'm, I'm working on a journey towards whereby I have more resources within myself to not get hooked, not get, feeling like I've been punctured by certain people when all they're doing, maybe unknowingly, and it has nothing to do with me, they're just kind of waddling through life and their quills just happen to brush upon my tender flesh, right? So, and I like to offer one path towards wholeness and peace, and this example from Jesus's baptism. I like to read this. It's been kind of a regular companion to me these past several years. In those days, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. And just as he was coming out of the water, he saw the heavens torn apart and the Spirit descending like a dove on him. And a voice came from heaven. "You are my son, you are my child, the beloved. With you I am well pleased." And I'd like to invite you to notice the words that I've highlighted in green. And I'm just going to quickly kind of go over each one of them and, just share like how I sometimes kind of think about them. Jesus came. So I think about Jesus in his body walking. So this is an embodied experience. It's not just thinking. I've tried for so long, just like trying to think my way out of situations and so forth. And I'm working on getting out of always just purely in my own head and try to take some bodily action. So one of the things is try to connect with my body, is a theme that we've been talking about. What is my body? This tightness in my stomach, the sweatiness of my palms, the shortness of my breath, the pounding in my head. What is my body trying to communicate with me, right? So there's a curiosity. And strategies that I found to be helpful is like when I'm just in that state, sometimes I just take a walk. I know that in certain people with trauma, hugging oneself, rocking back and forth, humming, those have calming bodily effects to self-soothe what's going on. So Jesus came is a embodied experience. Baptized in water. And so to utilize embodied life-giving rituals that have meaning for you or me. Like for me, sometimes it would be just jotting down some notes, journaling, making myself a nice cup of tea or coffee, right? Meditate, pray. I've I know that, that old commercial, Calgon, take me away, right? But it is true, taking a warm bath can be a very effective way to soothe and self-regulate one's emotions. It is literally embodied. John, to have an embodied connection with a safe, trusted, and empathic friend who sees you, who is a good listener. And so, when I find myself just at a point where I'm in dis-ease, I'm unsettled, sometimes giving a call to somebody, connecting to people who recharge you rather than those who drain you, for coffee, for a walk, right? And that we can be a recharger for someone else. That has been also a helpful strategy. Spirit, which pneuma, breath, right? So breathe slowly, mindfully, inhale and exhale to slow your body and your heart rate and to calm your body. And so, in so many traditions, both Christian and other traditions, breathing, noticing the breath, it's just a very important spiritual practice. And so many times I will just kind of inhale through my nose for 4 counts, hold it, and then exhale, sometimes through my nose, sometimes through my mouth, right? So I inhale, exhale, and sometimes I will even say like the spirit, right? I inhale God's spirit into my very being, and I exhale, I think about God's compassion and love and how that can come out of my own body to the person that I frankly am having a really hard time with. It has nothing really to do with them, but a lot to do with me and how I choose to respond. Voice. I try to also notice the voices or the scripts that come to my awareness. Are those voices full of criticism, blame, guilt, and shame? And whose voices are they, right? And what unmet needs are those voices trying to communicate to you? So yeah, when I was at Farmville Baptist, I was part of a family systems group, and we would get together and twice a year, and we would have a therapist that would kind of look at our case studies and so forth. And after a couple of years, after a while, she's been hearing the same story from me. It's just different people, it's variations on the same theme. And so one of the things that she said, it's like, you're a firstborn, highly responsible older son, like who's telling you have to do all those things? And like, well, my mom. Now my mom loves me. She's not one of those tiger moms or whatever, but somehow I've internalized that voice. And so Elaine Boomer says, I've got that excitement for you when you go home for Christmas. And it's okay, what's that? I'd like for you to find a way intentionally to disappoint your mom. Like, you're kidding me, right? I had you probably don't even know how to do that, Michael. And she was right. So, but it was a way to unhook myself, because her point is that if I'm able to disappoint my mom, not reactively, but with principle, and be able to stay connected to her, because my mom probably has the most emotional power over me, then there's no one else on this earth, much less in the congregation that I was serving, that will then have that kind of emotional power over me. Like, yeah. And that was so helpful. I might tell the story about like how I tried to do that, but I'm gonna leave that for another day. But just kind of a thought. And so instead of all of those other voices, like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not working hard enough, you're not earning your keep in terms of ministry, blah, 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 blah. The voice from heaven. So I'm gonna like speak these words, and I invite you to hear them as if the heavens are opening up right now, and the voice of God is speaking directly to you. And I'd like for you to notice and pay attention to your body during these next slides. You are my child. You are my beloved. And with you, I am well pleased. What are you sensing in your body right now? Calm. Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, you can type your answer there too. You don't have to type an answer. You don't have to say an answer, but it's an invitation for you to reflect how and whether the kinds of voices and scripts that we pay attention to has an immense effect on how we connect with ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we think God sees us, and definitely how we think other people see us. I found that when I am insecure about that, I end up contributing to a lot more situations that may be interpreted as conflictual. So, we have about 20 minutes left, and we may not take all the time, right? But I wonder if there's anything that anybody would like to say, or questions, or takeaway, or feedback, or critiques. I've given a lot of information. It's okay just to, metabolize and ponder over that. But Dan, I think you.
You may be familiar with the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. And
Yeah.
it usually ends with the phrase "a sinner."
Yeah.
Before COVID, I was with a group that we met once a month, and one of the guys in the group said, "I pray that prayer every day, but I say, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, your beloved."
Ah,
And picking up on the beloved phrase from your Mark story, I now pray that prayer with the ending, your beloved, not a sinner. And that changes,
oh my goodness.
that changes how I connect with that prayer. It doesn't mean I'm not a sinner. It just means I'm beloved. And that I never thought about that, because I've prayed it with the sinner ending for years. But when he said, I pray with your beloved, it changed how I hear that prayer now.
Yes. I suspect I'm just hearing you, and I can feel just in like my body going, right? And I suspect that if I were to pray that, my relationship to both the prayer and to God is framed so differently. Thank you for that, Dane.
The main reason that I was wanting to join these conversations is that many of you all know that our church is in a season of pastoral transition. We are in the midst of an interim, and very soon we will start having listening sessions from the congregation. And while I pray that zero conflict will come up in those, I also know that that's not a realistic thing. And so these are good reminders for me because I am not involved in the planning of those listening sessions. Like we have a team handling that, and I have zero responsibilities in them other than to show up. But I will be listening in them, and so the quadrants that you shared with us, Michael, was really helpful for me today. And I will, is that one of the things you're going to be sending to us? Will you send us that quadrant?
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just that for me personally, that would just be helpful to like keep that in my mind as I'm listening to the conversations that we will be having. But also, just in general, I said earlier, like the thing that people are upset about is not the thing they're upset about, and so just not having that gut reaction to fix that problem, to not fix why are we still only having one service? Why are we doing X, Y, or Z? And just taking a breath to then, because I don't have any official role in this, what is my unofficial role, and how can I lean into that? So, this is coming at the perfect time personally, in my own context. Not that it wouldn't be helpful if it was 6 months from now, but I'm just grateful for this conversation. And I think all of us are finding conflict in our churches as we're coming out of a pandemic and figuring out how to do church again and all of those things. So anyway, lots of processing in my head for today.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about kind of the kinds of conflicts between individuals and so forth next, and also, the kind of the systems thing, right? But yes. One thing that's been very helpful to me is like when a person comes to me and is like very highly kind of aroused or activated, very energetic, right? And I feel the unpleasantness, like, oh, and there's every bone in my body, being a person who doesn't like conflict, want to like walk or run away. It's been really helpful for me to just be reminded. Now it's like, oh, at least this person is approaching me to try to connect. I would much rather that, right?
And they're complaining behind.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Got plenty of that going on too.
Right. Yes. And the second thing is like it then I hear kind of what they're talking about, right? But then it's like, oh, I wonder what need or needs are not being met. Is it a need for fellowship or connection because they feel so isolated and lonely? Is it a need for ease and comfort because so much of the rest of their lives is just terrible right now? And it doesn't like fix the problem, but I find that I'm very different, and I'm able to kind of hear what they have to say on a much deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael, I was with a therapist who works primarily with clergy this week, and he made a statement to me that he thinks that the first task that he has to address with almost every clergy person is developing the skill to listen. And it makes me wonder, based on your presentation, if perhaps that skill could best be applied in beginning to listen inside of ourselves first.
Right. Yeah. That's very important. Because if we're not able to listen to ourselves, it makes it very, very hard to listen to, because there's already so much noise, right, inside of us. Yeah. Tom has his hand up, and I want to acknowledge that. Thanks, Tom.
Hey, thank you. I was just wondering, the passage that you shared is, for me, is a very Trinitarian passage, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
So is this a message of the Trinity is working for reconciliation, is working to resolve conflict? I mean, the Son has come to as a peacemaker, right, to the
Mhm.
world,
Mhm.
and he has brought reconciliation to it, and he is giving us the Holy Spirit. So I just want to reflect it on the theological basis of conflict resolution. Is that something you are hinting at here? That's what I wanted to comment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's no accident that I kind of use the triangle like this and the connection, right? And then, there are historical understandings of the Trinity as perichoresis of three, kind of in the dance of mutuality and so forth. There is a distinctness of each person of the Trinity. So there is that differentiation, but they are intimately connected. And it is out of that wholeness then life and love kind of emanates forth to a congregation or a community. So I think that's, um, definitely in the back of my mind, and you perceptively kind of saw that. But so I would imagine that might, I'm not a theologian, but that could definitely be a direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So I am going to make a couple of requests from you. I'm going to, all right. Number one is I'm still kind of learning how to do these things and these webinars and so forth. I would be so grateful if you could take time to just give me some feedback. I have included that link in the chat. If you can copy it or whatever, I'll also probably send it in an email too. So there's that. That would be really helpful to me. Next week, we will talk about interpersonal conflict. And one of the things that might be helpful if you're interested and curious is to take a self-assessment online called the Craybill Conflict Styles Assessment. And this is an assessment that is actually scientifically, I think, validated. If you do it by yourself online, is $50, but we are able to negotiate with CBF for Virginia and the Center for Congregational Health that if you're interested, if you can put in the chat box your first name, your last name, and email address, I will have the Center for Congregational Health send you a link to that assessment for free. If you can take it, and then we can perhaps talk about it next week. It's a very short assessment. And so this is actually my score that I took maybe in February of this year. It focuses on two axes in terms of how my style in the presence of conflictual situations. How high am I focused on goals? How high or low? And what is my high or low focus on relationships? I sometimes tend to sacrifice goals in order to keep relationship as a way to respond to conflict, right? And so this is my score, and it also assesses how I am when I'm calm. I'm pretty high in cooperating and directing, which is like much more assertive, high on goals and low on relationships. But when there are storms in my life, I tend to be more compromising and try to kind of have a medium and maybe more cooperating, which is higher on relationship while sacrificing goals. It's been just very helpful for me to have that greater sense of self-awareness so that I can choose, I know that this is my default, but maybe in this situation, I need to access another style in order for the sake of the mission, for the sake of the community, right? So if you can do that, thank you. I see some of the emails already. I'll get Chris Gamble at Center for Congregational Health to send you a link, and then perhaps we can talk about that a little bit later. So that's all that I have. Thank you for attending and participating in this webinar. I really appreciate your active participation. And yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, you can reach out to me. I will send you my email address right here, michael@michaelkchuck.com. If you have any questions that you want to, address offline. But at this point, I'm gonna stop, and I will stop recording. Let's see here. I'm gonna stop sharing first, and I'm gonna stop recording.